Today on Dragonlance for 5th edition, we're going to talk about how I ran the Test of High Sorcery. Hey, greetings everybody. This is Dragonlance for 5th edition. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, I actually got a little bit of a light that you saw in the intro, so that I'm not in shadow. This is obviously professional production here, right? But yeah, my light and my windows are behind me, and so I feel like I'm constantly in shadow, but that is beside the point. The point here is that we talk about Dragonlance. I am running a game of Dragonlance. We're converting it to 5th edition. And so this is kind of the things that I'm doing along the way to play through the original Dragonlance modules. The things I'm changing, the story elements I'm adding, that I'm shifting around, and any conversion stuff that we need for 5th edition. So this is the place to be, that if you're interested in running Dragonlance, whether or not we want to play it in 5th edition or an earlier edition. The whole point of this series is to really kind of get in and get talk about some ideas to make the game even more interesting than it already is, and it is a fantastic set of modules. So today we're going to talk about what I did for the Test of High Sorcery. This is not a conversation about what the books say about the Test of High Sorcery. That is right there. I've already done that video, but I added some stuff to the test that I thought were pretty cool and worked out really well. And so I wanted to share those as just ideas for what you might do in your own Test of High Sorcery. And so this is really only the things that I've kind of changed or that I specifically put in there. And you're of course more than welcome to do any of these things. But if you are looking for like, what do the source books actually say about the test, that's that video. I very much encourage you to check that out. Before we go on, I also would very much ask that if you are not subscribed to this channel, you should be. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon right next to it. As you can see, we are it's a small channel here, I very much appreciate anybody who is following us. Any comments that you have along the way, please do put them in the comment box. I love reading comments, and so I really do appreciate that. So let's get to it. So I mentioned last time that I took out the element where the wizard is confronted by what's called in the book a known ally. Now, in Raistlin's version of the test, that was Caramon. We know that from the books. But this is supposed to be kind of the confrontation that really kind of reveals the player's alignment and what robe color they're going to be. They're going to get at the end of the day. I replaced this and approached it slightly differently. Here's why. The whole like Raistlin fighting Caramon thing is really, really cool for the story. I can't imagine it actually working in a role-playing environment because if the whole point is the wizard is supposed to be like not really realizing that this is the test. Like, part of the illusion is that the wizard thinks this is real, and if like one of the other player characters suddenly like, we're going to have a fight to the death, that kind of breaks the moment. And so it could be also someone else, but I kind of made it a little bit more complex, and I think it really worked out well. So when they approach the Tower of High Sorcery, they are greeted by one one member of all three orders, and in those, there's a ton on that in the books. Go look at the books. But there are also two other wizards in my version that are taking the test at the same time. And it is explained to my wizard that, look, your party can come with you, but this is your test. These people are going to be in there too, but they have a different test. So your paths might cross, but their test is not your test. Their puzzle's not your puzzle, and so on and so forth. In reality, my wizard is the only person in that test. I got with the other players beforehand and told them, look, you're going to go along in the test, but you are illusions. Your character is actually waiting outside, sitting on the ground. But the wizard's going to believe that you are with her the whole way. And then I asked them to do something specific. There were 3 members of her party besides herself. And so I asked them to each represent one aspect of the alignment. So one person was advocating for the good, one person was advocating for the evil, and then one person was trying to be a mediator between them. Remember, in Dragonlance, evil means you're looking out for yourself primarily. Good means you are looking out for others primarily. And neutral is a balance between the two. And so in every situation, the character representing evil, and I believe that was our Kinder, Rosie, is going to suggest a course of action that might screw over others, but is going to help our wizard. Whereas as the person representing good is going to be advocating, it's like, no, let's do what we can to help the other people. And then the neutral one is kind of taking the role of, well, I see both points. Is there a middle ground here? And then they would because it was her test, the wizard has to make the final decisions. And so the situations where this happened was like the one-on-one duel at the end is against a minotaur. All right, so I had them cross one of the other wizards who was like hiding from the minotaur already, and he was asking them. It's like, look, I snuck in a wand of fireball. Grab it for me and give it to me. That way I'll be able to beat the thing. And so then the question is like, wand of fireball, you ain't got no spells that are that good. So why don't you keep that for yourself? Or are you going to help someone else? And these choices do have actual consequences in the game. So if she takes the wand of fireball, she gets the wand of fireball. This isn't a thing where like, we all know this is a test and it's illusion. No. If she takes the wand, she gets the wand. It's going to help her. That way there's a real temptation here. In a similar way, the other wizard had a bag full of scrolls. That would have been a big help. And is she going to take them from her, or one of them, or try to buy one? And that might be like a neutral result where it's like, can we trade something? Here. And so these are the questions that she has to answer. That second one actually happened at an inn. Now, in the outline that's in the 3.5 edition of the way the test is, they're rest areas. Now, I approach the rest areas a little bit differently. I made an inn there, and it was a place where they were able to rest overnight, have a long rest, and prepare for the final confrontation. Because after the inn, there's only really 2 tests: one more puzzle that the wizard has to face alone, and the one-on-one battle that she has to face alone. So that inn is the last place where the other players can physically help her. They can still give her advice, but they were sidelined after that point. And there are a lot of people at the inn, and the people were willing to talk. And they didn't say this outright, but if you talk to them long enough, you start realizing these are the ghosts of wizards who had died in the test previously. And they were very willing to talk about what they had experienced up until the point they died. After that point, they had no knowledge. And so, there were a couple of them there that had made it to that final Minotaur fight and could give more information. Some of them had died right at the very beginning, and they became more comic characters. But I kind of took this because there are so many places in Dragonlance where there are ghosts in these old ruins and stuff that ghosts actually make up a big part of the world. And so I thought it'd be fun to do that, and that they're kind of stuck there. And so that's a little disconcerting, because now you start realizing, oh crap, if we die here, this is us. We're stuck here. But also, make that scene a little bit more memorable, where there's some very real stuff to talk about, and some real tragic stories, and some real kind of goofy comedic stories. And so that became kind of a fun thing. And the second wizard, they actually met there. So as far as specific rooms, I didn't do anything crazy. I would try to mix up, battles with puzzles as much as I could. So like they came across this one room that was just like a bottomless pit, but there's spider webs over it. But then there are spiders there. And so, it kind of became a thing. It's like, well, you can burn the spider web and the spiders will go away. Then how do you get across, or do you fight them, or do you talk to them? And so this is the kind of room that I tried to create, where there might be several solutions. There's one puzzle room where the circular room signified the phases of the moons, and there were 3 glowing orbs, one for each of the moons, and you had to figure out, we're supposed to put these moons where they are currently. And I didn't make them roll to remember that. Wizards are going to know that. If it's someone else, I'll make them roll a nature check for that. But wizards and Krynn know where the moons are. Their magic literally depends on that. And so they know. And so I once you figured out the puzzle, I didn't make them roll for that. The final puzzle before the Minotaur fight is one that I really like, but it is also one that can really cripple your wizard. And it's this. It is a mirror. And this is the first thing that the wizard has to go through alone. And so she went and she saw a hostile version of herself. But it is a mirror image. And so this hostile version of herself was going to perfectly mimic everything she did, including the casting of spells. And when I say perfectly, I mean perfectly. If they shoot magic missiles at each other, because they did it in the exact same way, those missiles collide in the air. If they cast sleep on one another, they cast it exactly the same way. And so they both fall asleep for the exact same amount of time. And so the question is then, how do I get past this? Well, there's a number of solutions to that. First of all, if you were evil earlier and you stole that poor wizard's wand of fireball, that mirror image does not have a wand. And so you cast it and it's over. Same thing with those scrolls. If you either stole them or obtained them in a different way, then by purchasing them or trading for them or asking for them, then you could cast those. You could cast mirror image, which was kind of the quirk in the spell, because those images of yourself would appear in the mirror and would attack the other image of you, and you could go by. So that's the fair and right way to do it. But then in this, okay, if you have watched the video about Fistandantilus' spell book here, this is actually part of that. So in my game, my wizard is being slowly tempted by Fistandantilus and slowly being possessed by Fistandantilus. And this is the point where Fistandantilus might offer a spell to the wizard that is not in the spell book, so the mirror image would not have access to it. And you'll remember from that video when Fistandantilus does that in my game, she is able to cast that without a spell slot, without it being in her book, but it actually does appear in her book later, magically by that dark evil magic. But it also strengthens the connection between the two, which makes things more difficult later if she's trying to break away from him. And so that's the other kind of solution to that you get through. And so, I Googled, magic traps for wizards. I have no problem stealing ideas from other people. But these are the kind of things that I threw in there. I like puzzles to have several possible solutions, just because, puzzles are notorious. Like, if it's one that you can kind of struggle with and figure out, then it's a lot of fun. But if it's one you struggle with and you can't figure out, then they're miserable. And so I do like my puzzles to have more than one solution. Or if somebody throws out a good idea, then that is also a solution I'll accept. I did one puzzle in a room where they came up with a solution that I had not thought of at all. Not at all thought of. But it was clever. And so I said, yeah, that's exactly how you beat this room. Those are the kind of puzzles that I like. So as I said, the last battle is a minotaur. And minotaurs are hard, especially for one person. Especially, and this is where like in the mirror, my wizard totally could have just really put herself in a bad place if she had tried to use too many spells against that mirror image, and just drained her spell slots. Then she wouldn't have had anything left over for the minotaur. Thankfully, she did not do that, and she did cast mirror image on herself, which saved her a lot of damage. And she had stolen that wand of fireball, and that helped a lot too. And so was able to get through. When you're creating your own test, remember it should be deadly. And so this is why, when I made that mirror puzzle, I worried about it, because if she did go through like several spells, like, well, let's try this one, then she could have really put herself in a bad place against the minotaur. But this is supposed to be a test that is deadly, that is very deadly. And so there didn't need to be that real possibility of death in there. And so that's why I put those two back to back at the end, where she was really going to have to work hard to get through that. And so with that, she's returned to the wizards. They explain how this was an illusion, that her party members were never there. The other wizards were never there. This was all part of the test. And she did survive it. She did make it to the end. And so they offered her robes. And they did, in my game, they did offer them based on her actions inside the test. And, she was trying to steal some stuff from people. And so she was offered the black robes primarily, and she was also offered the red robes of neutral because she wasn't like that blatant about it. And I'm kind of figuring, just to give your players a choice, I probably would offer red robes in any case. But it was really interesting going through this because on paper, this is a good wizard, but in the test itself, she had acted in the Dragonlance version of evil, which again is just being very focused on yourself and promoting yourself rather than helping others. And so she walked away from the test with black robes, and that was fun. I mean, just be straight up. That was fun because it added aspects to her character that we really hadn't seen a lot of before. And I think that's one of the best reasons to do a test is because, like with Raistlin, it has a tendency when you're solo and life and death is on the line, it really brings out more of what the character really thinks and believes. And I really, really liked that. And I was very pleased with the way this came out. So that's how I ran this. Now, like I said before, if you are enjoying this content, please subscribe. Please make a comment below. If you've run the test, I'm really interested to hear how your test came out. If this is something that you're working on for an upcoming session, please let me know. I think this was a really cool aspect of Krynn in general. It is an iconic part of Krynn, and I think my party agreed that this was actually the best session we had. It was an absolute blast, and so I'm really happy with the way things came out. We are going to be jumping into Qualinesti next on our next episode, so we're going to continue through chapter 2, Fire of the modules, Dragon's Flame, and in like the original versions, and so please do stay tuned for that. I don't talk about this very often, but there are actually several ways that you can help support me in this channel. I have several albums out of soundtracks that I've done for Dice and Dreary, which is a Dungeons & Dragons game, and they sound really great as soundtracks for your game. I'm really proud of those. I'll throw those in the links, as well as a kind of horror action fantasy novel called The Hallowing of Ground. It's about vampire hunters, also in the description. But lastly, I have a Patreon up, and it supports not only this channel, but also all my music and podcast work, because I'm doing several podcasts, and so it's kind of all of that combined. And so if you are able to support financially, that would be great. It's at patreon.com/technofunkboy. Those podcasts that I'm on, by the way, Dice and Dreary, the Order of Podcasters, the Tales from the Rusty Speeder, that's a Star Wars role-playing actual play podcast, and Retro Station, which is just nostalgia podcast, and so please check those out as well. I really do appreciate it, and we will catch you next time.